Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. We're back in the garage and it's November in Scotland, and so it's pretty cold in here, so we're wrapped up. But we failed at the first hurdle because we forgot our little red book. There we go, old man's got it now. And so we're just taking some measurements. We're working on making a workshop cabinet where we can store all of our odds and ends, but also use it as a stand for either the drill press or the small bandsaw there, as you can see me measuring those up. As you can see from the plans here, pause this if you want to look in any detail. It's going to be 3 drawers to store all of our containers, screws, tie wraps, all the stuff that you accumulate over the years, but also the larger stuff like your drill cases and stuff like that in the bottom. I intended it to be 3 drawers. It turns out being 2 drawers and a door or a cupboard. That's just because of the dimensions. I realized that the stuff that I wanted to go in there probably wouldn't fit if it was a drawer, and so I changed that to a door. It also meant that it was a lot easier because of the wood that I needed for the drawers. It was a lot of wood. It's obviously easier to make just a door and not have a drawer. You'll see later I also have slides for the drawers, wooden slides rather than metal ones, and that was probably not a great idea, but I'll explain that a little bit later. And so watching a few channels, we're using pallet wood as we have done in the past few videos. There's a lot of negativity out there about using it, and clearly there's some downsides. It's hard to work with. There's obviously a lot of effort needed to get it to a state where you can use it and cut out all of the rubbish and then make that into panels, which is what you see me doing here. But even with all of that, those downsides, even with all the difficulties, and you'll see some in this video of the difficulties of working with it, particularly with warping with different types of wood, it's still very satisfying to use this wood, which otherwise would get thrown out, and build something that is useful and works. So look forward to that through the video. We've obviously milled this stuff up now, and now we're going to get a lesson in dust extraction. I've relatively recently got given a Evolution shop vac that switches on when your machine switch on, which is an absolute game changer. I'll maybe share some of that with you later. But this shows you how much dust extraction there is. I'm using an old Vax here, and you can see how much dust. That is a full vacuum cleaner. It's absolutely jam-packed, so we're obviously going to clear that out all the way up to the end of the tube. And so yeah, we need some dust extraction. So we've milled up our wood and we are cutting it down to size, and so we're just getting to the point where we can build our panels and start assembly. So we've got our first pieces for our first side panel milled up. We've milled one face and we've milled one edge, and I've put them in the order roughly that they're going to be in for this side panel. Clearly it needs a lot more sanding, needs a lot more filling, but as you can see, we've got a problem here because we've got gaps here and obviously a large one here, and that's because obviously we only milled one edge. And so we can't have that because that's not a good glue joint. What I intend to do is glue these and stick them together as a side panel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take them over to the table saw. I'm just going to take an edge off each one of these, this one as well. The others look okay. But a tip on doing that I've seen on another channel, this is not an original thought, is if you flip this one over and match it up with that and cut those at the same time. Doesn't matter if your blade is not square, if it's not perfectly straight, even if it's tilted over to one side. If you cut that together, when you tip that back over, put it together, those edges should be complementary, and therefore they should come together perfectly flat. So we're going to give that a go, and we'll see how that goes. This is another great technique that I've learned off other woodworking channels that I've watched. As I've said before, I don't have any original ideas. I'm just picking this up from others. That's the way you learn. Is using tape and super glue and activator just to bring two pieces of wood together temporarily, particularly when you're going to put them through the table saw, as I am going to do here. But you can use this in many various scenarios. Once you've done this, you put these two together. That's a pretty solid joint that you can use to make sure they go through together on the table saw. And then after you've done that, it's pretty easy to pry them apart and you can carry on with your build. We're putting these together, as we said, so that we can stick them through the table saw here and make sure both of those edges are nice and straight, flat, so that we can join these two together. That's the boards trimmed down. So as you can see now, we don't have the big gaps we had before. We haven't got any clamps on this, so they're not squeezed together. Still got a bit of a gap, what it looks like there, but I think once we glue this up, put the clamps on, that'll be okay for one of the sides. It's the first time I've made anything quite like this. I've made other stuff before, cupboards and little bookshelves and other stuff that you've seen on the channel, but this is the first time where I've needed to take these pallet slats in this case and make the panels that I'm going to need to assemble to build the item that I'm working on. But even doing this was exceptionally satisfying. There was just something about bringing these slats together and making one piece of wood, making a panel. I really found that satisfying. Don't know if it's the same with you, but it's kind of funny when you bring in this. I usually bring my stuff into the office overnight, and I say to the family, look, I've taken some pieces of wood and I've made another piece of wood. Funny, really. So we've got the second side panel ready to glue up, and if you can remember a few minutes earlier in the video how much time I took to glue up that panel with my lollipop stick and the glue. Clearly the glue's got an open time. We need to get that glue on pretty quickly and get everything set in the clamps. So I did a bit of Googling and I found one of these. It's a glue roller, obviously, you've probably seen them before. I'm going to give this one a go. This is from Axminster, only cost maybe about £5 or £6, so not expensive. This is not sponsored by Axminster, but if they want to send me some nice big new machinery, that would be great, no problem at all. So let's give this a go and see how it goes. Welcome to the ASMR part of this video. That glue just does not want to come out of that bottle, and that's one of the challenges of working in a garage. It's exceptionally cold, like I say, it's November, and that glue is pretty cold, doesn't want to come out, and it took me about 5 minutes to fill that bottle up. That's just one of the challenges that you can have working in a garage like this, and there are many more. Obviously, the temperature, the space is another one. Don't have much space. That's why I'm building this cabinet, though, obviously to tidy things up and to get some more space. The lack of tools, or perhaps not the right tools. That's why it's great when you find something like this that can speed things up. Even just a simple bottle with a roller on it. It worked really well, as you'll see, sped things up really nicely. And of course, the amount of time that it takes to build this stuff. If you're anything like me, then you are working full time, and if you want to do this, then you got to find time to do that. I've got some time in the evenings after work. I've got, if we're on holiday and we don't go away, or Saturday, I can come into the garage, usually get a full day in the garage. I've got other commitments in the church, and therefore I don't have a massive amount of time. And so it's tricky to find the time. And that's why this took well over 6 months to bring it together. Obviously compounded by the fact that I had to make all of these panels before I could even start on the assembly. So it is quite challenging to do this in your garage. I'm sure you can relate to that. I'm sure you've got your own challenges, but nonetheless it's still enjoyable. I still really enjoy doing it, and hopefully I'll bring some more videos and some more builds. The next one is a new workbench, so that should be coming relatively soon. So we're just getting our panels done now. We need a back panel, 2 side panels and a bottom panel, and then we can get on to assembly. These are the cross pieces that give the cabinet a bit more strength. You'll see me fit these later, so I'm just giving them a sand down before we start assembly. So I came into the garage a couple of days after I'd put some epoxy on that gap there, which you've probably seen, and you can see that my panel is now got a lovely curve to it. Now this shouldn't be too much of a problem because I'm going to put rails across here for the drawers, and that hopefully should straighten it out. But you can just see some of the drawbacks of using different types of pallet wood and how it gets affected by the moisture and the weather. This sat in my office for weeks and was completely flat, but I brought it in here for a few days, and now this is what happens. Don't mind, we'll see how we can work with it. All the other panels to a greater or lesser extent suffered from a little bit of bowing or warping, and that was fun trying to bring all those together and to keep it square. I think it turned out okay, and you'll see at the end, judge for yourself. But yeah, that was fun seeing the panels all moving and changing shape like they did. But talking about tools, again here I'm using my circular saw to cut our panels down to our final size. This was difficult as well. I've had that circular saw for a good number of years. It needs changing. It would be great to have a lovely track saw. I really find it difficult to cut a piece of wood square on all sides, but we'll work on it. It's something we need to work on. And as always with pallet wood, there's a lot of work needs doing to try and make it look as good as possible, because some of this wood wasn't the best. I could have spent a bit more time and should have spent a bit more time picking out better pieces of wood, but I didn't. And so, as you can see, a liberal application of epoxy resin, which in the end didn't turn out that good. You'll see it on the front panels. I didn't really like the way that it turned out. This is the back panel, so you don't really see this. I only added this for strength, just so it was a little bit more robust. And of course, once you do that, once you fill all the holes, you've got to do all the sanding, and you see me using my big sander there to get rid of a lot of the epoxy, and then coming back down to this little orbital sander just to improve things. And it turned out not too bad. As you can see, they're not too bad, these pieces, and so now we finally get to preparing these for assembly. I've said a couple of times now that we're getting to assembly, but of course we're not. We still need to work out a way of joining our panels together, and that's often the way I feel when I'm doing a build. I'm thinking about the next bit that we're going to do, and I'm thinking, oh great, we're going to get to assembly now. And then when I go back in the garage, I think, oh no, actually I've got something else to do. But of course, we've got to have a way of joining our panels together. In this case, I'm using an awful lot of pocket holes. If nothing else, this is going to be sturdy. Could have done half lap joints with glue and maybe some nails, but I like pocket hole screws. They're easy to do and they are quite strong, and so done a whole bunch of those on all of my panels, clearing up here with a bit of sanding, and so now we can actually get to assembly. As I mentioned before, I made 4 panels. There's the base, which you can see here, and the back panel, which I'm now just putting on there, and the 2 side panels. I think normally when you would make a cabinet, the back panel would be something like a thin piece of MDF. Doesn't need to be overly structural or strong, but I just made them all out of pallet wood, and so this is very strong, particularly with the pocket hole screws. And so yeah, it was a little bit of a deviation in the way that I made this panel. You can see on the back panel there the use of epoxy. I used it quite a bit on this, again as I said before, because the wood wasn't brilliant and there were a number of splits and gouges out of it, and so I just wanted to strengthen it. I was mucking about with mixing various dyes, so I was using like ink that you would put in a pen. I also used some of the wood dyes that I had just to see what it would look like. It doesn't look good, as you can probably tell from the back there, but we're not going to see that panel, so I'm not too concerned about it. But it didn't really work out. The panel on the front as well, it looks okay, but I would have liked it to look better. If I'd spent a bit more time perhaps on sanding and polishing, it wouldn't have looked so bad. But you know, you live and learn, and it did clear up some of the gouges and breaks that were in the wood. As usual, struggle with the straightness of the panels. As you saw with one of those panels that curled up a bit, it was a bit difficult to get everything square. And whilst everything looks okay at the moment here, they look relatively flat. You'll see in a minute what leaving it in the garage did to it, and how we had to deal with that. It was good to start getting this together. You know, it's great to see this getting assembled, but I do get impatient from time to time. I don't take enough time on these jobs, and I really should do. And then things like the epoxy might be a little bit better. So we're putting these cross pieces in. I mentioned before, you'll see where I'm putting them. They're really, again, also to strengthen it. You usually, I think, again with cabinet making, you would have a face plate here with a nicer wood to improve the look of it, but I just put these cross pieces in to give strength. So that one in the top, which I think is quite standard for cabinet making, and you can use that to attach the top, which I did, and then 2 pieces lower down, you'll see them go in a minute. And they were there to really just to split up the front of the cabinet to show where the drawers were going in. Here's one now. They add a little bit of strength to it, but they're really just dividers to show where the drawers are going to be. We had two drawers at the top of that one, and in the end I decided on having a door at the bottom rather than a drawer. And you'll see pretty soon what happens, and I need a lot more cross pieces to straighten this up, not to strengthen it but to straighten those walls, because they buckle badly and bow. And as you'll see in the next parts, that we put the runners in, and the runners are just so bent, and therefore the drawers wouldn't run on them, so we had to do something about that. that's the carcass nearly done. Still got a toe kick to put in, which is just a simple frame underneath it just to raise it up off the floor. Next thing I want to do is put runners on the inside for the drawers, obviously for the drawers to run on. And what I'm going to use is some of this I've recovered from some old wooden school chairs. I've got a project coming up to use the rest of those. I've got some ideas for that, so follow if you want to see that. Not the next video, but maybe a few videos on. So what I'm going to do is just strip this down to the right thickness. Need 3 each side for the drawers to run on. So let's do that next. As I said, these pieces of wood for the runners were reclaimed from old wooden school chairs. I think you have to be a certain vintage to remember them. You can see actually just on the left of the screen, on the left of my table saw, you can see the back rests for them, and hopefully I'm going to use those for another build, an idea I've got in my head, and that hopefully will be coming in the not too distant future. But in fitting these runners, I think I made it a lot more difficult for myself. Rather than putting the runners underneath the drawer, I put them in the center of the drawer, but I'll show you the difficulties that brought later on in the video. But for now we're just countersinking some holes for screws. We're going to glue and screw this to make it lovely and sturdy. I used a trick there again in that I've seen on multiple channels. You can see I've clamped a panel of wood inside the cabinet to get the right height, and try and put these runners on at the right height, both on the left and the right. Unfortunately, as I've said before, because the panels aren't perfectly flat, it was difficult to get this to sit properly at the bottom of the cabinet. But we got it okay, as you'll see in the end. We managed to glue and screw these on the insides of the cabinet pretty well. And so we just took that panel and then we cut it down to the next level of drawer. And I think it was at this point I decided that actually I'm gonna, in fact no, it was after this, I put runners in for all of the drawers, for all 3 of them. But afterwards, for various reasons, I thought the bottom one will just become a door. It's not going to be a drawer. So as you can see, all the runners are in. They look pretty straight here, but give it a few days, and I think perhaps when I brought it into the dry of my office, you can see that these things bow the sides of the panel. So you can probably see the runners now. I try and get inside it, that there is a bow to those runners, and so my drawers are clearly not going to run on that, and they're going to stick. So this is where the extra cross pieces came in. I didn't add all the video for creating those, but you can see them in the center of the box. And now I've got them in, kind of showing you that the runners look a lot straighter. Hopefully you can see that, but there's a lot more structure on the inside now. This thing is not going to break at all. And so we got them in eventually. It took quite a while, something that I didn't expect to have to do. But there we go. It's all pretty sturdy now, and hopefully flatter than it was. So we're putting the toe kick now on, or the kick plate, or really it's a plinth that I'm making here to lift the cabinet up off the floor. Simple plinth with just 4 pieces of wood. Same construction as the rest of the cabinet, to glue and pocket hole screws to make it nice and strong. And it's at this point I'm looking at this thinking, oh, we're getting quite a ways through here. We're, almost done. We've got the cabinet nearly done. But then you got to think about the drawers, and they took a lot of work. Like I said before, we'll see in a minute, I think I made them a bit more complicated than they needed to be. But there we have it. We've got the plinth on, or the toe kick on, and the cabinet's looking like it's getting on some ways. But Of course, we've got to do the drawers and we've got to make the panels for those as well. And so we get to the same point we did with the other panels, that got to cut down all the wood, got to make sure the joints are nice and flat so we can glue this stuff together, glue the panels together with our nice new bottle and roller, and clamp it all up even before we get to making the drawers. So it must have been getting a bit hotter in the garage. I don't know where we are now. Must be later on in the year, but yeah, we've taken our coat off. But yeah, it just takes a whole lot more time to do this when you have to make up your panels for everything that you have to do. It adds so much more time onto it. But enjoyed doing it, and like I say, I think it come out okay. And so once our panels are all dry and out the clamps, we've got to do the usual obligatory filling of the holes and sanding of our panels to make them look as good as possible, even though you're not going to see them. So we're just about to put together our first drawer. I've got my two sides in here, and if you can see, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, I've kind of penciled in a groove that I'm going to have to cut so it can run on these runners each side. A couple of things I need to worry about here is, one is the groove is going to be cut right on the join of these panels, because they're two pieces of wood stuck together. The second thing is that I'm going to have to lift this up a little bit so that the side stone or the drawer doesn't run on this stretcher, because we don't want it to be too sticky of a fit. Once we've done that, then I can cut down my front panel, my front and back panel. I could do that now. I could measure in between these two and add on maybe 3 or 4 mil either side for the groove, because these are going to be set in once we've cut that groove. But likelihood is that I'll get it wrong, and so what I'm going to do is cut the groove or route the groove first, then put them back in, measure that distance in between, because this is going to sit in between these two. Measure that distance in between, we can cut that down, and we can put together our first drawer and then try it out for size. Let's do that then. So this is where I think I overcomplicated this. I'm routing a slot for the runner through the centre of the drawer, but I could have put the runners underneath the drawer and have the drawer run on those. If I'd done that, it would have prevented the anguish when this happened. That was my Homer Simpson impersonation. But what you saw happen there was the bit in the router dropped out, went straight through the side panel that I was routing and into the other side panel which I had underneath. When I was doing it, I just thought I'd hit a knot or something like that, a tough piece of wood, but clearly that wasn't the case. Whilst it doesn't look great, it didn't actually affect the operation of either of the side panels, so I just carried on. So now we've cut the grooves on our side panels for the runners, and we can put them in place and measure up to cut exactly the length of our front and back panels. Once we've done that, it's on to drilling what seems like 1,000,000 pocket holes. This is certainly a piece of equipment that I'd love to upgrade to at the very least the pocket hole jig that fits to your bench, and you can add some dust extraction to. And so once we've done that, we can look to assemble our drawers as well. But we hit another snag, which is the bit that comes with the pocket hole set is very long, and with my drill fitted to my drill, it's not going to fit in the drawer, and so we're going to think of another way to screw these pocket hole screws in. What I came up with was a good old-fashioned ratchet, which we could fit our bit on, and then that fitted into the drawer. And so we managed to get our screws done up. It took an awful lot longer, but we managed it. We're putting a groove in now, the sides of our drawer, so that we can use, I think it was 6mm MDF we used for the base of the drawer, and that worked fine. So now we can assemble our drawers. Glued, fitted together, base slid in and then clamped up, and then of course we could start screwing up with those pocket hole screws. And you might ask why the bit of these pocket hole screws is so long. It's because of the angle that's needed to get the pocket hole screws in as flat as possible. If the bit was shorter and you were using a drill, it would be too close to the hole and the angle would be too steep, and the screw would probably pop out the other side of the wood. So now we got them assembled, and thankfully on first fit both of them went in pretty good. We didn't have to do too much adjustment. We're now going to tackle the front panels of all of the drawers in the door. Nearing the end now, just got to put the fronts of the drawer and the door on. So I'm just marking up where the divisions are of the drawer and the door, and then we'll split that into one. The idea behind that was to have some kind of a grain match on the front. Not sure it really worked, but we gave it a try. It doesn't look too bad. And so we need to split up our pieces. I'm just using my handsaw here because I nicked the cable, the electric cable on my circular saw, and hadn't repaired it at this point. So now we've got our individual pieces. We can put a little bevel on them just to make them look a little bit more professional. And then it's time to fit them to the front of the cabinet. So we just clamp them in, screw them in to the back, and we're all good to go. Made sure that I've got plenty of screws in here because there's going to be quite a bit of weight in these drawers, so I didn't want to pull it off if there was too much weight in it. So we do our first one, we'll go on to our second one, as you'll see in a minute. And then we tackle the door at the bottom. As I said, I changed kind of part way through. I was going to have 3 drawers, but then decided on having a door at the bottom just so we could have a little bit more space in the bottom there. That was a little bit tricky. Had to look at a few YouTube videos on how to fit the furniture to the drawer. To the door. But we got there in the end, and as you'll see, we'll end up with a nice working door. It's really good to get this to this point. We're nearly getting to the end. And then we had the interesting task of handles. What handles? I didn't want to buy any, so I tried to make these. I didn't like them at all. They looked too bulky, and so got rid of that and then found some dowel that seemed to do the trick and didn't look too bad. So here's the final product without the cabinet top. Looks not too bad, I don't think. It certainly works, and that's all we needed to do. And so we're just using a bit of kitchen worktop for the top of this. Didn't need anything too fancy. So it was a case of screwing it in from the bottom, and I used some L-clips on the back. A final sanding all around the outside, and then I used a bit of Osmo to finish the front to make it look a little bit special. I didn't spend too much time on it, but I wanted to make it half decent. And so we're nearly at the end now. I hope you liked this. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. So we finally got to the end of the build. It took quite a while, obviously because of work and other commitments. And we were making it out of pallet wood, which always adds time to it. We had to make every panel before we could put it together, but it's done now. I'm pretty happy with it. There's plenty of faults with it, but it's sturdy, it works. We've got storage space now, and a drawer at the bottom, and so we can get on to our next steps of clearing out the garage, and that is going to be clearing all the stuff off those shelves there and putting most of that into here, and also we're going to use this also to put the drill press or the bandsaw on top, not sure which yet. So we'll clear that out. We'll dismantle those shelves because I don't like them at all. I haven't liked them for a long time. They've got holes in the shelves which stuff can fall through, so it's not ideal. We're then going to get rid of this cupboard at the back. and clear all that out, clear all this mess out, and then that'll be the next video, just clearing stuff out and seeing this in action. And then after that, we're going to have a new bench build, because this bench here is had it, and although it's done me well, it needs replacing because it wobbles all over the place. So that will be the video after that. So if you've liked that, if you like this, like and subscribe. If you don't, tell me why, and I'll catch you on the next one.